Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Good afternoon. Welcome to our first SDGs in action of the semester. Today, we are joined by our special guest, Agness, Nohra, and our student moderator, Philip Maraldo. I'm so sorry, Maraldo. Let me introduce our guest, our student speaker. He is Philip Maraldo. He's a freshman in the Honors Academy studying computer science here at FDU. He works in the FDU community as a member of FDU's Sustainability Task Force, where he helps make FDU more sustainable, global, and diverse. In addition, he is establishing a student-run organization on the Florham campus that is focusing on encouraging environmentalism and sustainability from the student perspective. He hopes that in the future, he will have the opportunity to combine his studies in computer science with environmentalism to use coding and technology to better our planet holistically. You're very impressive, Philip. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
being
much for
our
having me
student
today.
moderator. Absolutely. We are so
I'm
happy
so
to have
excited
you.
to be here.
Thank
Now, before
you.
we start the presentation, I just want to quickly introduce our amazing guest speaker, Agness Nohra. Agness Nohra is a 23-year-old marine biologist and ecologist, ocean advocate, and a member and volunteer with different NGOs working on environmental protection, as well as youth and women empowerment. She's co-leading the grassroots solution team at the international organization Young Women in Sustainable Development. She's also a co-founder at the Lebanese startup Skillnest.lb, targeting Lebanese youth with the mission of building a community where they can exchange skills and knowledge for free. In addition, she's a member at the Lebanese NGO Diaries of the Ocean, responsible for doing awareness raising campaigns for local communities about marine life, helping with marine conservation action, and facilitating advocacy and coordination between various actors in the industry. Agness is a scout, always ready to serve her community in order to leave this world a better place. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Agness.
Thank you so much for this introduction. So happy to be here with you.
I'm so excited to have this great discussion. So to start off, we've heard so much about your very impressive biography, but let's take a deeper dive into your vision and purpose. As a rising leader in the global sector, share with us why you are so passionate about the 2030 SDGs and which goal or goals you would consider to be closely aligned with your work.
Okay, so, well, we all know the SDGs, and we know that they are very much needed to improve people's lives and well-being. They literally cover every aspect of our lives. So, but you know what's more important than the SDGs? Actions to reach them, collaborations, and effective communication and implementations. I believe that the world will definitely become a better place if effort is made and put by literally everyone. So everyone is invited to take part in this. Governments, local authorities, the private sector, like companies, even NGOs and nonprofits, and of course, individuals. Actually, each one can help in one or multiple fields. And now, as for me, there are 5 SDGs that align best with what I do and that I love to continue working on in the future. So mainly they are SDG 3, good health and well-being, SDG 4, quality education, SDG 5, gender equality, 13, climate action, and 14, life below water, obviously. So as a woman aiming to empower other women, I'm volunteering with Young Women in Sustainable Development and Stand for Women. The former supports young women working towards an inclusive and sustainable future. We'll see more details in the presentation. Whereas the latter is an advocate for gender-balanced businesses in the Middle East, aspiring to create and nurture awareness among women and organizations in order to instill positive changes within the workforce. So the work of both NGOs mainly is based on the SDG 5, gender equality. This is on one hand. On the other, my friends and I, as you said, are working on a startup that is Skillnest.lb, and this is a community where the youth can exchange skills and knowledge for free. So the idea came up after many problems accumulated in Lebanon, such as the economic crisis, the spread of COVID, and the terrifying Beirut port explosion. So as a result, the youth lost all kind of motivation and their mental health was negatively affected also. So we wanted to do something for them to get back to life, learn new skills, and engage with other youth from their community. Skillness focuses on SDG 3 and 4, mainly, good health and well-being, and quality education. And last but not least, I'm a marine biologist, which means I'm obviously into SDGs 13 and 14, climate change and life below water. I work on preserving and conserving marine biodiversity and spreading ocean literacy also. The ocean is vital for our existence, and this we will talk about more in the presentation too. So taking care of it is necessary for its optimal functioning. We should help the ocean help us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting, and I'm excited to learn more and hear more about what you have to say during your presentation. So on a more personal note, any point in your career, have you ever felt as though being a woman leader restricted you from key resources, networking spaces, and global opportunities needed to fulfill your hopes and dreams?
Well, there's this one time where I was supposed to take on a new responsibility. I have had finished my current one, and it was time for something new. Let me call it upgraded level. The new function was coordination amongst a big group of people that was structured, in smaller groups. And the ages were ranging from 8 years to 20 years old. To my surprise, I was told, no, you wouldn't handle it, you're a woman. You cannot be responsible for this large number of people. And men or boys in the group, they wouldn't take you seriously. All I wanted actually was a chance, but I was deprived from it. And I was certain I could handle everything that could come my way. If not directly, I could learn how to handle the situations. After this, I said to myself that this was a small example of gender discrimination. It was happening to a lot of women here in Lebanon, and of course, worldwide. We would hear about it in the news, on social media. Everyone would talk about it. And I wanted to help erase the inequalities and, take on the SDG 5 and work on it. So if we shed the light on the marine science field, according to the second Global Ocean Science Report, the data of this report said that only 39% of scientific ocean researchers worldwide are women. They face a lot of challenges during their work. For example, they face harassment on board, for example, if they are doing boat research, and also the salaries are unequal. So mainly men are paid more than women. Now I will transition to my presentation. We will talk about this more deeply, and we'll see the importance of the equality of men and women working together in all fields, but specifically in the sustainability fields, and more specifically in SDG 14, Life Below Water. I will be sharing my screen now. Please let me know if you can see it.
Yep. And while you do that, I just want to encourage the audience, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please leave them below in the chat. There will be a Q&A portion at the end of Agness's presentation, and there's so much that we can talk about. So please ask away.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, my video. Okay. So in order to make the blue bluer, we have to know why the blue matters. So why ocean matters? Let's take a dive in SDG 14. So first, an overview. We'll talk a little bit about my journey, my personal journey with the ocean. Then see what are the ocean threats and why they are important. A little dive in the SDG 14 and the UN Ocean Decade. What actions are being taken now worldwide, and how, as a youth, as a young person, or as a citizen, I can help. So first, in 2018, I knew I wanted to be a mermaid. I knew I wanted to discover the ocean and find a solution to all the threats that it is facing. So we were in second university year. I was studying biology, and I was seeing during this ecology class the dolphins images, and how we can preserve and how we can take care of the oceans. And I literally fell in love with this. And I knew that in Lebanon, specifically, there are a lot of threats and a lot of challenges to this. On another hand, the UN Ocean Decade was launched. And I think this was a sign for me. Go, Agness, go for it. You are supported. There are a lot of people here working on it all over the world. So this is your chance. So if we take a look at the Mediterranean Sea, the Mediterranean is a biodiversity hotspot. This means it is one of the major reservoirs of marine and coastal biodiversity. So actually, the flora diversity in the Mediterranean, this means the plants in the Mediterranean Sea, it is outstanding. It has more than 25,000 species, and 60% of these species are endemic. What I mean by endemic, it means that these species are only found in the Mediterranean. We cannot find them elsewhere, not in the Atlantic, not in the Pacific, only in the Mediterranean. And since the Lebanese waters are part of the Mediterranean, this means you have a lot of endemism here. We have a lot of species that are important and we should take care of. For example, we have Posidonia oceanica. This is a plant and it is called the lungs of the Mediterranean because it is responsible of the production of a big amount of oxygen. But unfortunately, it's on its way to extinction. So this year, I graduated as a marine biologist and ecologist, and the journey was amazing. It is a multidisciplinary master's because we studied the biology, the physics, and the chemistry of the ocean. We used the GIS and remote sensing. This means we could use satellite imageries to monitor parameters or factors of the ocean to study, whatever data or we want. We studied the estuaries. This means where the river come to the ocean, and here we have this mixing between the parameters of both. And the conservation approach, how I can conserve and protect the littoral zone, some species, and how I can form marine protected areas. And finally, a little bit of math, because every study needs numbers and data and proofs. So here we use statistics. During my academic courses, I joined Diaries of the Ocean. It is a Lebanese NGO. And this was the first step for me in the professional world. This is a woman-led NGO. The director is a woman. She's a marine biologist, and mainly all the people working are women, marine biologists. Some are journalists, engineers. And in this NGO, we work on raising literacy, spreading ocean literacy. For example, we go to schools, we give sessions on marine biodiversity in Lebanon, on ocean acidification, the importance of oceans at schools, at universities also, and by this we go to youth engagement. We work on advocacy, and also we work on policy. For youth engagements, we did a competition at universities. You know, the Indian universities, they do groups, they compete, they know more about the ocean, they raise questions and issues. We do beach cleanups and different events. And then I joined Young Women in Sustainable Development. And this is an international network of passionate women in the sustainability field all over the world. Now we are in more than 100 countries. So what we do is we empower women, mainly young women, to take action. And each team does it in its own way. So we have the policy team, the advocacy, the programs team, and the grassroots solution teams, which I'm part of. We advocate on the SDGs, and we provide a space for young women to support advocacy. We provide input on policy. So mainly this is the task of the advocacy and the policy teams. We support solutions for sustainable development. We provide a network of young women interested in sustainable development. So the grassroots team's activities, my colleague Elizabeth and I are co-leading the grassroots team at Young Women in Sustainable Development. Actually, what we do is we look for women-led organizations, businesses, mainly grassroots initiatives, assess their needs, and see how we can help. So maybe they need financial resources, maybe they need capacity building, and this is what we try to help them with. We have this Share Wednesday on Instagram. Each Wednesday, we share a woman's story. She is in the sustainability field. So this way, we are exposing her and we are enriching our community. We are putting them in contact, the women that are in our community, and we are making it bigger and bigger. Also, we have a monthly newsletter. We give tips, we give capacity building tips, We let them know, we let our community know about our events, and also we do frequent webinars and workshops. And here in the pictures, you can see the second episode of our series, Build Your Own Wings. This was the webinar for capacity building and for women to know more about what skills they need in order to succeed in leading their grassroots initiatives. Now, we've talked about me, my personal journey with the ocean and why I love it. But now let's talk about the ocean's threats. We've all heard of climate change and pollution. Now it is, they are at their peak. But also we have other threats and barriers that are threatening the ocean. For example, we have the invasive species, we have coastal violations, and we have illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Let's see each one in detail. So first, if we want to talk about the IUU fishing, as you know, or you may know, the fishing nets in the law are very restricted and limited to a specific size. They cannot be very small, even the hooks we fish with. Unfortunately, fishermen in many regions, I will talk about Lebanon because I know this. Unfortunately, they use very, very small hooks or very, very small fishing nets. And this way, they are capturing even the juvenile fish, the very, very small fish. So what happens then, when they use this, they will be fishing the very small juveniles, and they will stop the cycle, the growth cycle of continuing normally. So will they be interrupting their growth? They will not be letting them become big, mature fish, and they will not be reproducing and multiplying. So this way we will be losing stocks, we'll be losing fish, and the fishermen will be losing their main source of income. And so imagine we are losing the fish. This will have impacts on all the fish, the food chain of the ocean, and eventually on us. Not only this, but we have the bycatch. When I say bycatch, I mean what I unintentionally catch during my fishing. So if I'm going to fish, I don't know, a specific type of fish, but I catch a shark or a turtle, instead of letting them go, giving them their freedom back, I kill them. So this is bycatch. And every year, please look at these devastating numbers. The bycatch kills more than 250,000 turtles, more than 100 million sharks, and around 300,000 dolphins and whales, mammals. This is terrifying. We are losing a lot of species. Not only this, but there are some unethical ways of fishing, like the dynamite fishing. So when fishermen use dynamite, they are not only killing a lot of resources, but they are also destroying the bottom of the sea, the habitat, the physical habitat, the rocks, the corals. So it won't be suitable anymore for any form of life. This is on one hand. On the other, look at this fisherman. He has lost his hand because of this way. So the dynamite can hurt the fishermen, the humans also. And if we look at this dolphin, you can see the waves around it. So lovely thing about the dolphin is to locate the predators and the prey. It uses this echolocation system that is based on waves. So by this system, they can locate their predators and their prey and know where they are geographically, if you want to say it this way. So once we use dynamite, this will interfere with the waves of the dolphins, and they will be lost. They won't be able to locate the predators nor the prey, and this also can damage their hearing system, their sonar system. So they get caught, they get eaten, and they can die eventually. Other than this, the coastal violations and habitat destructions. For example, here in Lebanon, the majority of the coast is under violations. I will take a specific example here about the monk seal that we have in Lebanon. Now we have 1 or 2 species left, but before we had a whole population of monk seals. Now they are under extinction. So their natural habitats are caves. rocky caves along the shores. We have them here in a region in Lebanon, a coastal region called Amshit. You can see it here in the picture, Amshit. However, last year, in 2021, 2 years ago, I mean, a private villa was being constructed on the natural seal caves. So they were destroying its natural habitat. This is on one hand, and on the other, they were privatizing the popular area that was public. So they weren't allowing any more people to go down the beach and use the beach for tourism, for swimming, or maybe visiting the cave. We go to marine invasive species. When I say invasive species, I mean species that was originally in a geographical area and has migrated to a new geographical area where it didn't exist before. Okay, this is one condition. The second condition is that this species will cause economical and ecological damages. So if just the first condition applies, it is an alien species. So it came from one geographical area to the other where it wasn't originally in. When it started doing damages, now it is an invasive species. I'll take the example of the lionfish. The lionfish is original to the Red Sea. It wasn't in the Mediterranean. It was never in the Mediterranean until 2012. She hit the East Mediterranean and she arrived in Lebanon. Why is this? Two main causes. First, we have the Suez Canal that was an opening and it could link the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. This on one hand, so she had now a clear passage to the Mediterranean. And on the other, due to climate change and the harshening of the conditions of the Red Sea, they were harsh at first. We have high temperature, we have high salinity. With climate change, we had a higher temperature, higher salinity, and the lionfish couldn't tolerate this anymore. They had to change to look for new habitats where it's favorable for them to live. So they arrived to the Mediterranean, to the Eastern Mediterranean. They had no predators in them. So they were free. They could feed on local fish. This is why the fishermen were very much annoyed. And all the ecology of the ecosystem, it was disturbed because this is a new fish that is coming and is eating the local fish. On the other hand, the lionfish is poisonous. It has poison in its fins, so it can hurt other species and fishermen also. On the right, you can see the smooth flute mouth. Also, this is a Lisception species. When I say Lisception species, like the lionfish, they come from the Red Sea through the Suez Canal to the Mediterranean. Pollution. We are all hearing of pollution, of course. Now it's at its peak, and mainly for the plastic pollution. Other than plastic, we have the sewage water. You know, the pollution from the sewage, industrial chemicals that are being thrown into the water without being treated before. So the accumulation of all these substances can be toxic and lethal to many species. So we can lose a lot of species, a lot of organisms. We can have toxic blooms, algal blooms. Many algae can use these substances and multiply at very, very fast levels. And they can throw toxins into the water and kill nearby organisms. So going back to the plastic pollution, I don't know if you've heard of the microplastics, but now also it's, you know, a trendy term. What happens actually to the plastics that are thrown into the ocean? They will be fragmented by the UV from the sun, and this will be accompanied by microbial also fragmentation. So some microorganisms will take part in this. So we have now the microplastics from this fragmentation, and the microplastics will be ingested by organisms, by marine organisms like fish, and other, of course, in the trophic chain, like the seabirds or other aquatic form of life. But eventually, after the fishing, the humans will be eating and will be getting the microplastics. And there's this interesting study that was done in March 2022, last year, and they had the first proof of the presence of the microplastics in the blood of the human. I know now it's very, very small quantities, but imagine with the pollution that is now increasing and increasing, we can reach a lot of an increasing quantity of microplastics in the human's body. And this is not good. Even turtles are being, they aren't distinguishing the plastic bags from the jellyfish, because mainly the turtles, they feed on jellyfish. So they cannot see the difference between the plastic bag or the jellyfish. So they are eating the plastic bags, unfortunately. This is blocking their digestive system. So they will be starving to death. They cannot eat anything. And they can suffocate also from this, from the plastic bag. So we are losing a lot of turtles, and this is why mainly all the turtles are under extinction now, under threat. They are very threatened now, and we are very scared of losing some populations, some species, even of sea turtles. Climate change, the biggest threat to the ocean now. So I don't know, you've heard of climate change, of course. The CO2 that is being released in the atmosphere from the combustion of fossil fuels, it is accumulating in the atmosphere. We have a lot of CO2 now, and the ocean has a big capacity of absorption of the CO2. And this will lead to ocean acidification. We'll talk about it later. So CO2 in the atmosphere, we have the temperature that is rising, and this will cause the melting of the ice that is in the pores. Okay, we have the icebergs, we have the big blocks of ice, they will be melting. They are melting actually, and they continue to melt. So the more they melt, the more we have the increase in the sea level. We have the sea level rise, and this, of course, will put in danger the coastal communities living on the coast of the continents. We have inundations, we have flooding. So these are the most endangered population. It is the one on the coast. This is on one hand. On the other, some species cannot tolerate the increase in temperature. So, or they will die, okay, if they cannot migrate, or they will migrate. They will go and look for places where now the conditions are favorable, where they can eventually settle and live. So we are losing a lot of stocks, a lot of species, a lot of organisms, and this, of course, has effects on fishery sector. The fishermen cannot find any more fish. They are dying, they are migrating. So if you can see, everything eventually has negative effects on the human. Another effect of climate change is the coral bleaching. We don't have here corals in Lebanon, but I know that in the US there are corals, and there are coral reefs. The coral lives in symbiosis with plankton, the zooxanthella. Symbiosis, I mean, this is a mutual benefic relationship. So the zooxanthella gives the color to the coral, but with the temperature, when it increases, the coral will throw it out, will throw the zooxanthella out, so it will lose the color. And when it loses the color, it started dying. Okay, so we are experiencing a lot of death of corals. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia, it is there's a lot of death of corals, and we will see later the importance of the corals and the coral reefs. Now, ocean acidification. Ocean acidification comes from the climate change, so it is an effect of climate change. So as we said, we have an accumulation of CO2 in the atmosphere. The ocean, with a high absorption capacity, will be absorbing the CO2. So the more CO2 we have, the more absorption from the ocean we have. The CO2 combined with the water, the H2O molecules, will give us the carbonic acid. However, this acid is not stable in the water, so it will dissociate directly to bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions, H+. And you know the pH, the more we have H+ ions, the lower the pH. Okay, so now we are experiencing all over the world, and proven by scientists, lowering of pH of the ocean. Even the bicarbonate ions, they will be slipping is going into H plus and the carbonate ions. So we have more and more H plus, we have more a lower pH, we have more acidification. So the acidification comes from the lowering of the pH because you have an accumulation of hydrogen ions. So what are the consequences of this? First, we have the calcifying organisms like the corals, like the clams, like the oysters, all the organisms that use the calcium carbonate to form their external skeleton, if we want to say, or the shells, you know, like barriers for them, because they are protected by them, they will be losing this. Why? Because the shells are formed from the calcium carbonate, CaCO3. This will dissociate and the carbonate ions will go to the H plus ions to form bicarbonate ions. Okay, so they will be dissolved into the water. They will lose the carbonate ion. So the calcium ion cannot find any more carbonate ion to combine with and form the shells. So first effect of ocean acidification, the dissolvement or the death of these calcifying organisms. Then, of course, not all the species can tolerate the acidification. If we have lower pH, not all fish, not all organisms, not all mammals, not all plants also can tolerate this. So we'll be losing a lot of species. Some can migrate, but some cannot, so they will die. And this will have impacts on the fisheries sectors, of course. So fishermen won't find any more species to fish. They won't find any more fish. Not only the fisheries sector, but also, for example, the aquaculture, okay, and the tourism. If there is no species to watch, why will I go diving? Why will I go swimming there? So we can see the devastating effects of climate change and ocean acidification. So we saw the threats, but why is it important to preserve the oceans? Why are they this important? We all know the Amazons. We know these incredible forests that do a lot of photosynthesis and give us O2, the oxygen we breathe. So imagine that the oceans, they produce more oxygen than all the Amazons. This is one. Two, they regulate the climate. We have the surface circulation that dissipates the heat from the equator to the North and South Pole. And this is how the oceans regulate our climate. They protect from natural hazards. We did talk about corals, but did you know that coral reefs have the capacity of absorbing a lot of power from, for example, waves or tsunamis? They absorb the majority of the power. So they protect the coastal populations and the coast. Not only coral reefs, but also the mangroves. Mangroves are like forests that are on the coast, and their root system is very powerful. So also they have this shock absorption capacity. They are protection from natural hazards and flood also. The oceans are source of food. The majority of us like seafood. We eat fish, calamari, and other type of seafood. Medicine is extracted from oceans, or substances that forms medicine can be extracted from organisms, plants or animals. For example, insulin for diabetes, it can be extracted from some types of fish. And algae also, it gives us a lot of genetic resources and medicinal substances. Ornamental materials, some of us like to go to the coast, to the beach, and collect shells, and we like to have them in our house, or even we have aquariums with fish in it. And of course, there are many jobs that are related to sea activities. When I say jobs, I say fishing, I say the tourism sector, I say the maritime transportation sector, marine biologists, ocean scientists, marine biotechnologists. So there are a lot of jobs that are related to sea activities. And even now the energy sector. Sports, tourism, aesthetic values, sports, swimming, diving, sailing. Aesthetic values, a lot of people like to go to relax. Some poets or some singers, they get inspired by the ocean. And finally, the education and research to always better understand the ocean, to see how we can help it in the most efficient and effective way. So now, we will talk about SDG 14 and the UN Ocean Decade. So SDG 14, Life Below Water, and the UN Ocean Decade, they came to the rescue of the ocean, because we just heard and saw and see all the threats the ocean is facing. So in 2016, there was the launch of the SDGs, and of course, one of them, the 14 Life Below Water, tackling all the issues that are related to the oceans. We'll take a look at them later. And then in 2018, the UN, in 2017, the UN said we will be having the UN Ocean Decade from 2021 till 2030. So for the targets of SDG 14, we have first reduce the marine pollution in all its forms. So we have the physical, the chemical, the biological pollution. Of course, protect and restore the ecosystems, since we are losing a lot of ecosystems now, they are being disturbed. Reduce the ocean acidification. And we just saw that the ocean acidification comes from climate change. So we can also be reducing the effect of climate change and see how we can tackle climate change first. Work on sustainable fishing and conserve coastal and marine areas, and subsidies contributing to overfishing. So in order to do this, we have to, there are laws for sustainable fishing, and there's the subsidies that are contributing to overfishing, we have to stop them. Increase the economic benefits from sustainable use of marine resources. And when I say this, my mind goes to the blue economy. So if you've heard of this term, it's the exploitation, the preservation, and the regeneration of the marine environment, and to see how we can use sustainably all the resources of the ocean. And when I say blue economy, it's all the sectors that work in the area of the ocean. So ocean scientists, marine biotechnology or blue biotechnology, maritime transportation, energy sector. So all these should have practices that are sustainable in order to preserve the ocean, so it can give us more resources. Increase scientific knowledge, research, technology for ocean health, support small-scale fisheries, and implement and enforce international sea law. So now going to the UN Ocean Decade, achieving the ocean we want by 2030. So as a quick vision for this ocean decade, the science we need for the ocean we want, how I can put my scientific knowledge in the benefits of the ocean. How can I make it sustainable? So the mission is transformative ocean science solutions for sustainable development, connecting people and our ocean. And I love the fact that it is connecting the people and the ocean. So it's not just us scientists alone, we do the job, but no, the other people, no ocean scientists, you have a role in this and you are connected to the ocean. So it's very important that you understand this connection in order to help us and in order to benefit the maximum from all the resources the ocean can give us. So now we will see the outcomes. So the 7 ocean decade outcomes. So we want a clean ocean. Okay, so where sources of pollution are identified and reduced or removed. We want a healthy and resilient ocean. So where marine ecosystems, they are very well understood, they are protected, restored, and managed. A productive ocean. A productive ocean that is supporting sustainable food supply, sustainable ocean economy. And we say a predicted ocean where society understands and can respond to changing ocean conditions. a safe ocean where life and livelihoods are protected from ocean-related hazards, an accessible ocean with open, equitable access to data, information and technology, and also innovation. And finally, an inspiring and engaging ocean, where society understands and values the ocean in relation to human well-being and sustainable development. These are the 7 ocean decade outcomes. So let's take a look of the actions that are being taken worldwide. So the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of the UNESCO, the IOC UNESCO, is really working on ocean literacy and spreading the knowledge. When I say ocean literacy, is ocean knowledge, education, worldwide. So they came up with new blue curriculum that is a toolkit for policymakers. They want to include the blue curriculum, the ocean knowledge, in the curriculum of the schools. So smaller generations, younger generations, can grow up knowing about the ocean and grow up as leaders, ocean leaders, and ocean advocates. Also, they are working on the marine spatial planning. Okay, this international guide or maritime spatial planning. So when I say spatial planning, it's a process that brings together multiple users of the ocean to make informed and coordinated decisions about how to use the marine resources in a sustainable way. It's like an architecture of the ocean to see what's the best combination in order to make the most out of the ocean. Generation Ocean also, this is the official public-facing campaign of the UN Ocean Decade. And actually, it uses transformative storytelling to connect citizens with the ocean and it drives action to restore, protect, and live better with the ocean. Also, other actions, for example, we have the 4Ocean. I don't know if you've heard of it. It is a company, it is located in Florida. What they do is they take the plastic pollution and from plastic, they do bracelets. And they are selling them and shipping them worldwide. Diaries of the Ocean, I just told you about it earlier. We work on literacy, advocacy, youth engagement, and policy. We have the Sustainable Ocean Alliance that activates young people all over the world that are working on maintaining a healthy ocean. They have supported a lot of startups, grassroots initiatives, businesses of young people in this domain. Your Ocean and Yongo, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's the official children and youth constituency of the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, UNFCCC. So if you see, there's a lot of things that are happening, a lot of actions that are being taken, but everyone has a place. So every one of us can do something. So if you want to help, how can you do it? So first, become ocean literate. Know more about the ocean. Ask questions, attend webinars, attend workshops, take online classes or online courses. Know more about it. The more we know, the more we can help. Second, raise awareness about ocean-related issues. So here I will jump to the last one, get involved in advocacy and policy. So when you know about the issues, you know about the problems, you can talk about them. You can expose them. Third, reduce plastic consumption as much as you can. Plastic, we saw the damages and effects of plastics. The more you can, reduce plastic consumption. Join youth environmental networks. I just told you about the Sustainable Ocean Alliance, Yongo, the Gen Ocean. Google them, see what they do, see how you can help, or maybe other environmental networks. There's always something to do. Participate in beach cleanups. I always see on social media some invitation for beach cleanups because there is always this need to clean beaches. So there's a lot to do. You can do a lot. And focusing on this and reflecting on this, I want to say that since there's a lot of things to do, women and men have to be given, equal opportunities to do so. We all have our special impact. We all have a special skills input. So everyone is welcome. And SDG 5, gender equality, should always accompany every step that we do. So there are women leaders leading here, for example, in Lebanon and worldwide campaigns about ocean issues. They are making NGOs, some even university clubs, and they are succeeding in it. They are literally true leaders. And there are men who are doing these things. So we have to recognize both genders' input and everything that they do. So it is the job of everyone, to end all kind of discrimination and encourage everyone that has a voice and everyone that has something to do, and see how I can help. Always ask, how can I help? And thank you a lot for being here, for listening to me. If you have any questions, I'm open to answer you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Agnes. That was so eye-opening. I'm going to move this over to the Q&A portion now, and I want to encourage all of our audience to please put any questions that you have in the chat. It doesn't even have to necessarily be about the scientific part, anything about her experience as a woman in Lebanon, anything, don't be afraid to ask. So you did touch upon pollution and microplastics. How low on the food chain have we found microplastic ingestion?
How low? So last I checked, the small fish, there are small fish, but I don't know if planktons have in them microplastics. This is something I should maybe read about or ask about. But the thing I know, there are fish with microplastics, and this is leading to microplastics in the human body also.
Okay, so even very low on the trophic levels. So that's a very big issue.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Similarly, what effect does ocean acidification have on organisms without a shell? You touched upon clams and oysters. Does it have a similar effect on non-shelled organisms?
Yeah, so non-shelled organisms, let's talk about fish, for example. They cannot tolerate this change of pH. They can migrate. Okay, they will migrate. So this change of habitat. Okay, this is one. Two, there are some behavioral changes that can occur. For example, the clownfish, Nemo, the movie Nemo. This is a clownfish. So the behavioral change is that after acidification, when the pH is lower, they cannot detect their predators. They do not recognize their predators with the pH being lower. So they will be eaten more. They cannot go away, run away, because they don't recognize that there's a predator in front of them and that is a threat to them. And so we will be losing stock or fish or organisms because of these behavioral changes.
And this is a problem for all types of fish, not just clownfish, correct?
Sorry?
This is a problem for all types of fish, correct?
Not all of them, some of them. For example, clownfish.
Okay. Now you mentioned your education. Where did you go and what was your experience like? You talked about how there was occupational discrimination as a woman. Did you face similar struggles in the academic journey?
No, actually, we were all women in my master's. So here in Lebanon, I think there is more marine scientists, more women marine scientists. And I think I'm proud of this, but I don't want, this field to be all women also. We want the participation of everyone. So, if men will want to do this master's, okay, of course, welcome, come on board. We need everyone. So, but it was a lovely journey with teammates that were very passionate, that were very supportive. And we were very impressed by the UN Ocean Decade and SDG 14, and we were working very passionately about it. Yeah, it was amazing, lovely journey.
In talking about legislation, is there anything like, are there certain acts that should be prioritized sooner rather than later that could put more stress on other countries to deal with ocean issues?
Well, I think if climate change, is tackled, we will not have any more, for example, ocean acidification. There are a lot of things that will disappear, but if we want to start somewhere, it's ocean literacy, definitely. There are people that do not understand what is ocean acidification, what are the effects of climate change or acidification or overexploitation, and they do not know what it can affect them as people. They see the ocean as a far habitat, that we are not connected, we are not related. With this literacy, they understand this connection, that we are all connected and the ocean affects you and you affect the ocean. So if I would have one thing, as an answer, I would say ocean literacy, ocean literacy.
What would you like to be seen from the UN Water Conference this year? Like what legislation or movements would you want to be taken?
Water. I would say implementing, there are a lot of laws that talk about water treatment. I know this might sound very, very cheesy, but for example, if I reflect here on Lebanon, we cannot swim in our sea. A very basic right, if I want to say. We cannot swim. There is no treatment of sewage water. And, we are losing a lot of diversity. Biodiversity, yes, but, as people, we cannot benefit from these resources. Even for our mental health, we cannot go for a swim, or, and it's very stressful. So, yeah, I will say shed the light on the implementation of these laws, and to ask what are you doing with it, and for the people who are not responding or are not obedient to these laws, we want to see consequences of this.
Do you think all countries should have like equal legislation? Like, do you think a country that is maybe more wealthy should maybe have more legislation than one that is less wealthy? Or do you think it should be a universal law regardless of any sort of defining factor?
No, it depends on the needs. It have to be flexible, and each country has its own needs and potential and resources. So according to these factors, you decide what are the legislations.
And do you think that you touched upon plastic pollution a lot? Do you think that plastic pollution is a bigger issue for oceans than fossil fuels? I think fossil fuels is such like a huge topic in terms of climate change. Do you think that in terms of life below water, is plastic pollution a bigger issue?
Yeah, I think they go hand by hand. Each one it doubles, and the accumulation of both, it does the big thing. Yeah, plastic pollution on the long run, it is devastating. So if they found microplastics in human blood, we should be scared. We should definitely be scared. This is not something, this is very serious. Fossil fuels, I hope that the fossil fuels will, oh, sorry, the video. Sorry.
Okay, your camera turned off. Okay, you're all good.
So since fossil fuels are limited resources, I hope they finish now, so we can go to renewable sources and deal with plastic pollution.
Okay, so you think that like more green energy would be a good.
More green energy, definitely.
And what advice would you give to like students that are wanting to like mitigate harm done to life below water? Like what can we do as like FDU students?
Okay, awesome. So first, you know, the last slide of my presentation, the how can I help? You can do this. And as students, as university students, you can cooperate, for example, with climate negotiators that are in your countries and that they go and negotiate, you know, internationally and find solutions to these problems. Now you are ocean literate. You took this session, you know more and more about the ocean. You can even amplify your researches and your knowledge about this topic, and you can email them, you can write them letters and go meet with them, see, ask them, so how serious is this? Are you talking about this in your international congresses or meetings? We want to be part of this. How at FDU we can do changes, how in our house, how in our community. Please lead us, guide us. And they won't say no. Of course, if they see you excited and wanting to help, they will put your hand in yours.
Thank you. And throughout your presentation, you highlighted a lot of different ways in which social and economic sustainability is interwoven within environmental sustainability. Can you say a bit more about how social, political, and economic stability influences our ways and actions that we see the environment? Does this change in terms of where we're from, like versus the United States and Lebanon?
Okay, for example, here in Lebanon, we have an economic crisis now and social crisis. No one cares about how sustainable everything is. You know, the most important thing is to survive this period, to stay alive. You know, so we aren't shedding the light on sustainability. For example, in the electricity sector, now I'm not in the ocean sector anymore. We do not care of going green because we do not have the financial resources of doing so, and we will lose a lot of time. So we don't have electricity, you know, sometimes we lose electricity like the 10 hours a day. We have electricity for 2 hours and then we lose it another time. This is, for example, electricity sector. And, you know, maybe they think of going green, but we cannot do it. We are in an economic crisis. On another hand, because there are a lot of problems now that have to be dealt with in Lebanon, the environment is the least of their problems. When I say they, I mean the politicians, the governments. Of course they care, but there is nothing they can do. Now we have the Lebanese pound, you know, problem, the dollar rate here, you know, it's political problems now. So there's this chaos, and the environment and sustainability are far away from it. So yeah. So many NGOs are doing stuff. The youth are going with initiatives or grassroots initiatives just to say we want to do something. We are here. We care about sustainability. We care about the environment. Yeah.
So like in a way, sustainability is a privilege that like not all countries will have.
Yeah. Not they will have, but yeah, it's very
really
tricky.
prioritize.
It's very tricky because they want to prioritize it, but they cannot. So they first have to take care of the big things, okay, and then go back to sustainability. They know they will have to tackle this at some time, but yeah, there's the time factor that's very important also.
Okay, thank you so much for all of your insight and input. I think we're about time wrapping up, and there's no more questions in the chat. So I just want to thank you personally for sharing your time and your
Thank you.
knowledge. And if you just want to put your social media handles in the chat, that way I know I want to follow not just you, but all your organizations. And I'd love to follow that progress. I'm sure other people would as well.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Agness and Philip. You did an amazing job. The presentation was wonderful. Thank you so much to our audience for being engaged and asking questions. This was a wonderful SDG in action, focusing on life below water. And we hope we can have you again as a guest speaker, Agness. You were amazing. And
thank you. Of course, I would love to. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day and a great semester. We're here if you need us.
Thank you.